Arminius was a chieftain of the Germanic Cherusci who defeated a Roman army in the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest in 09 AD. Arminius's influence held an allied coalition of Germanic tribes together in opposition to the Romans. But after defeats by the Roman general Germanicus, nephew of the Emperor Tiberius, his influence waned, and Arminius was assassinated on the orders of rival Germanic chiefs. Arminius's victory against the Roman legions in the Teutoburg Forest had a far-reaching effect on the subsequent history of both the ancient Germanic peoples and on the Roman Empire. The Romans were to make no more concerted attempts to conquer and permanently hold Germania beyond the river Rhine. Modern historians have regarded Arminius's victory as Rome's greatest defeat, and one of the most decisive battles in history. During the unification of Germany in the 19th century, Arminius became hailed by nationalists as a symbol of German unity and freedom. Following World War II, however, schools often shunned the topic since it had become associated with the militant nationalism of the Third Reich, and many modern Germans have not heard about Arminius. The 2000th year anniversary of the battle was not commemorated by the German government. According to Der Spiegel, the old nationalism has been replaced by an easygoing patriotism that mainly manifests itself at sporting events like the Soccer World Cup. Name. The Latinized form Arminius probably reflects the Germanic element *German, found in the tribal name of the Ermawans, probably with an original meaning of strong, whole. From the 16th century, possibly first by Luther, the name Arminius was identified as a Latinized form of the name Hermann. As a consequence, Arminius is traditionally known as Hermann der Cherusci in German. Biography. Arminius, born in 18 or 17 BC, was son of the Cheruscan chief Segamarus and trained as a Roman military commander. He had lived in Rome as a hostage in his youth, where he had received a military education, and obtained Roman citizenship as well as the status of equestrian before returning to Germania and driving the Romans out. Battle of the Teutoburg Forest around the year 04 AD, Arminius assumed command of a Cheruscan detachment of Roman auxiliary forces, probably while fighting in the Pannonian Wars on the Balkan Peninsula. He returned to northern Germania in 7 or 08 AD, where the Roman Empire had established secure control of the territories just east of the Rhine, along the Lippe and Main rivers, and was now seeking to extend its hegemony eastward to the Weser and Elbe rivers, under Publius Quinctilius Varus, a high-ranking administrative official appointed by Augustus as governor. Arminius began plotting to unite various Germanic tribes to thwart Roman efforts to incorporate their lands into the empire. In the fall of 09 AD, the 25-year-old Arminius brought to Varus a report of rebellion in northern Germany. He persuaded Varus to divert the 3 legions under his command from the march to winter quarters to suppress the rebellion. Varus and his legions marched right into the trap Arminius had set for them near Calcresa, the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. Arminius's tribe, the Cherusci, and their allies the Marsi, Chatti, Brucheri, Chaucer, and Sicambri ambushed and annihilated Varus's entire army, totaling over 20,000 men. Recent archaeological finds show the long-debated location of the 3-day battle was almost certainly near Calcresa Hill, about 20 kilometers north of Osnabrück. When defeat was certain, Varus committed suicide by falling on his sword. Arminius's success in destroying 3 entire legions and driving the Romans out of Germany was one of the most devastating defeats Rome suffered in its history, and a high point of Germanic power for centuries. Roman attempts to reconquer Germany failed, although they managed to break Arminius's alliance. Roman retaliation, intertribal conflicts, and death between 14 and 16 AD, Germanicus launched punitive operations into Germany, twice defeating Arminius, first in the Battle of the Weser River and later near the Wall of the Angriverii. Arminius also faced opposition from his father-in-law and other pro-Roman Germanic leaders. In AD 15, Roman troops managed to recapture one of the 3 legionary eagles lost in the Battle of the Teutoburg Forest. In AD 16, a second eagle was retrieved. Tiberius denied the request of Germanicus to launch an additional campaign for AD 17. However, having decided the frontier with Germania would stand at the Rhine River, instead, he offered Germanicus the honor of a triumph for his 2 victories. The third Roman eagle was recovered in AD 41 by Publius Gabinius, under the Emperor Claudius. With the end of the Roman threat, a war broke out between Arminius and Marbod, king of the Marcomanni. It ended with Marbod fleeing to Ravenna and Roman protection, but Arminius failed to break into the natural fortification to Bohemia, and the war ended in stalemate. In 1980, Germanicus died in Antioch under circumstances which led many to believe he had been poisoned by his opponents. Arminius suffered death 2 years later, in 21 AD, murdered by opponents within his own tribe who felt that he was becoming too powerful. Tiberius allegedly had refused an earlier offer from a Chatti nobleman to poison Arminius. It was not by secret treachery but openly and by arms that the people of Rome avenged themselves on their enemies. Roman attempts to reconquer Germany failed, although the Romans inflicted several defeats on the Germans. Arminius's victory against the Roman legions in the Teutoburg Forest had a far-reaching effect on the subsequent history of both the ancient Germanic peoples and on the Roman Empire. The Romans were to make no more concerted attempts to conquer and permanently hold Germania beyond the river Rhine. Modern historians have regarded Arminius's victory as Rome's greatest defeat, and one of the most decisive battles in history. During the unification of Germany in the 19th century, Arminius became hailed as a symbol of German unity and freedom. Legacy. Arminius had married a princess named Thusnelda, whose name is preserved only by Strabo. She was captured by the Romans while pregnant, so her son Thumelicus grew up in Roman captivity. Tacitus tells us he had an unusual story, which the historian promises to tell, but is lost to us. Rome in the accounts of his Roman enemies. Arminius is highly regarded for his military leadership skills and as a defender of the liberty of his people. Based on these records, the story of Arminius was revived in the 16th century with the recovery of the histories of Tacitus, who wrote in his Annal 288. Arminius, without doubt Germania's liberator, who challenged the Roman people not in its beginnings like other kings and leaders, but in the peak of its empire, in battles with changing success, undefeated in the war. Arminius was not the only reason for Rome's change of policy towards Germania. Politics also played a factor. Emperors could rarely trust a large army to a potential rival, though Augustus had enough family members to wage his wars. Also, Augustus, in his 30-year reign, had annexed many territories still at the beginning of the process of Romanization. Tiberius, successor of Augustus, decided that Germania was a far less developed land possessing few villages, with only a small food surplus, and therefore was not currently important to Rome. It would require a commitment too burdensome for the imperial finances and for excessive expenditure of military force for a new achievement. Modern scholars have pointed out that the Rhine was a more practical boundary for the Roman Empire than any other river in Germania. Armies on the Rhine could be supplied from the Mediterranean Sea via the Rhone, Saône and Moselle, with a brief area of portage. Armies on the Elbe, however, would have been supplied by extensive overland routes or by ships traveling the hazardous Atlantic. Economically, the Rhine already had towns and sizable villages at the time of the Gallic conquest. The Rhine was significantly more accessible from Rome and better equipped to supply sizable garrisons than the regions beyond. Rome would control Germania by appointing client kings, which was cheaper than military campaigns. Rome chose no longer to rule directly in Germania east of the Rhine or north of the Danube. Rome preferred to exert indirect influence through client kings. So Italicus, nephew of Arminius, was appointed king of the Cherusci. Vangio and Cedo became vassal princes of the powerful Suebi, etc. Old Norse sagas in the early 19th century. Attempts were made to show that the story of Arminius and his victory may have lived on in the Old Norse sagas, in the form of the dragon slayer Sigurd of the Volsunga saga and the Nibelungenlied. An Icelandic account states that Sigurd slew the dragon in the Netaheid, today the suburb Netaheid of the city of Bad Salzuflen, located at a strategic site on the Werra River, which could very well have been the point of departure of Varus's legions on their way to their doom, in the Teutoburg Forest. Also one of the foremost Scandinavian scholars of the 19th century, Guthbrander Vigfusson, identifies Sigurd as Arminius. This educated guess was also picked up by Otto Hoffler, who was a prominent National Socialist academic in World War II. German nationalism in Germany, the name of Arminius interpreted as reflecting the name Hermann by Martin Luther, who saw Arminius as a symbol of the German people and the fight against Rome. Hermann der Cherusci became an emblem of the revival of German nationalism fueled by the wars of Napoleon in the 19th century. In 1808, Heinrich von Kleist wrote the play Die Hermannsschlacht, but with Napoleon's victory at Wagram it remained in manuscript, being published in 1821 and not staged until 1860. The play has been revived repeatedly at moments propitious for raw expressions of national romanticism and was especially popular during the Third Reich. In 1839, construction was started on a massive statue of Arminius, known as the Hermannsdenkmal, on a hill near Detmold in the Teutoburg Forest. It was finally completed and dedicated during the early years of the Second German Empire in the wake of the German victory over France in the Franco-Prussian War of 1870 to 1871. The monument has been a major tourist attraction ever since, as has the Hermann Heights Monument, a similar statue erected in the United States in 1897. The Hermann Heights Monument was erected by the Sons of Hermann, a fraternal organization formed by German Americans in New York City in 1840 and named for Hermann the Cheruscan that during the 19th century flourished in American cities with large populations of German origin. Hermann, Missouri, a town on the Missouri River founded in the 1830s and incorporated in 1845, was also named for Arminius. The German Bundesliga football club DSC Arminia Bielefeld is named after Arminius. Following World War II, information about Arminius and his victory was omitted from the German textbooks, and most modern Germans don't know about Arminius. The 2000-year anniversary of the battle was not commemorated by the German government.